Welcome to the Betting Above the Rim podcast. Today's date, August 12th, episode 77. In today's podcast, we do an Olympic wrap-up. We'll look at the men's 98-87 win over France to talk about what a performance, especially out of Steph Curry, which I think may go down as arguably one of the greatest performances, if not the greatest, especially that last 3 minutes of his illustrious career. Next, we'll go to the women who really were in a dogfight and came away with a 67-66 win over France. I'll talk about the game, and I'll talk about a lot of the mistakes that I thought that Cheryl Reeve made during the game, and especially down the stretch in which it was a Gabby Williams foot away from being overtime. And if we went to overtime, I thought France would have had all the momentum and would have won the gold. Next, we'll preview what I think, as of right now, who would be on the roster for the 2028 Olympics. Remember, folks, 2028 Olympics will be held in LA, so I will give you my thoughts of what I would think the 12-man roster would be for the men, along with other players to consider, along who I think will be the coach, and then also who I would take for the 2028 roster for the women. Lastly, Shams just reported a couple of hours ago opening night schedule, so we'll get quickly my thoughts on the opening night schedule in the NBA, and did the NBA get it right with their two matchups. Let's get started with the men, who had a great game in a 98-87 win over France. It was a game that was really well played. You can look at the fact of Victor Wembanyama, 26-7, 2 assists. Yabusele, 22-2 for the United States. Obviously, Steph Curry was fantastic, 8 out of 13 from 3 with 24 points. KD, 15, LeBron, 14, 10, and 6, and then also took home the MVP for the Olympics. First off, before I get to United States, I gotta say this. If you don't think Victor Wembanyama is a top 10 player in the world right now, you must be out of your damn mind. This guy at 7'4" was absolutely tremendous. I know he had a rough game, one of the games, I think it was against Germany, but he was fantastic this entire Olympic tournament. And I'm gonna say this, folks, he will be top 10. He should be in the conversation for MVP. He's going to win Most Improved Player. Just lock it up, throw it away. He's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Lock it up, throw it away. Could he be in the conversation for Most Valuable Player? Folks, I'm going to say this now. He's a top 10 player in the world, and when he puts on weight, and I'm going to take my glasses off, when this kid figures it out, and he puts on about 20, 30 pounds of muscle, like Giannis did, folks, he's Giannis on steroids. Meaning, bigger, more athletic, can shoot it better, can finish better, can rebound better, can play better defense, and can definitely block more shots. When this guy got drafted, he was a unicorn. And he has exceeded my expectations in regard to how fast he's progressing. Pop, do us a favor. I am begging you as a coach, but more importantly, as a fan of this game, play this kid 35 minutes this year. Let him go out and play. By the way, right now on FanDuel, 18-1 to win MVP. I'm putting in a ticket in after this. This kid, if he plays 35 minutes a night, mark my words, come back to this if I'm wrong. If he averages 35 minutes a game next year, ready? 24, 12, 5, 4. 24 points per game, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 blocks. He does that, he's going to be in the MVP conversation. And if San Antonio does anything, and I love what they got out of Stephen Castle, if they can get better and he gets that team to the point where they are competing for a playing spot with the rest of them jokers, Wembanyama will be playing himself into an MVP conversation. Speaking of France, this kid Yabusele, oh my lord, oh my lord. There was a guy that played for France not too long ago named Ronnie Turioff. Played at Gonzaga, played in the NBA for a little bit, played for the Knicks, and I was always a big Ronnie Turioff fan. Yabusele reminds me of him, but better. Like in finishing, right? Rebounds, could score, tough. You saw him I think he put LeBron on a poster. I'll tell you this right now, he played so well the last two games. And part of the reason why France got to the gold medal game, even though they lost 98-87, is when Yabusele went into the starting lineup. It unlocked France. He was tough. He could play with Wemby better than Rudy Gobert. I want to see Yabusele with France, obviously next Olympics, but I want to see him in the NBA. I will say this before I get to Steph Curry in the United States. If you think, I am waiting for the trilogy. Sign me up. I may have to find tickets. 2028, a gold medal game, France versus United States. With Yabusele, with Wembanyama, with Tijan Salam, with Zachary Richichet, with Alex Sarr. Oh, woo! We are 4 years away from the rematch, the trilogy, and I can't wait. Let's move on to the winning side with the USA. And folks, what did Drake say? Chef Curry with the shot. Boy, did you? I came on here last week and I talked about how Steph Curry was struggling because of the ball. Well, Steph done shut my behind up. Steph Curry, 24 points, 8 out of 14 from the floor, 8 out of 13 from 3. Folks, this guy went last 4 minutes, 3, 3, 3, 3, including that last shot. And here's how they did it, folks. They got into offense in which they ran pick and roll, got a switch, gave it up. Usually went through, I think it went through to KD and got it back. And then when he hit this shot, the last one that he hit, he may have put the most iconic part of the Olympics. And what did he say? Nuit, nuit. You know what that meant? Night, night. Drive home safely. Thanks for coming. And Steph Curry, folks, do you know that with his performances, he led USA in scoring? Steph Curry, that could not get over 2.5 made threes, made 17 threes in the last 2 games. Steph Curry's had a tremendous career. I got into arguments, I'm doing camp this week, and I got to argument with a couple of campers, or a couple of counselors that said that Steph Curry is the greatest point guard of all time. I'm still taking Magic. But I'll tell you what, he don't give me a lot to think about what he just did. That stretch of those back-to-back three-pointers, folks, were 4 daggers. Because every time he made a shot, France came back pretty much almost every time he made a shot. And when you got LeBron James on the floor, arguably the greatest player of all time, he's my number 2. By the way, shout out to LeBron. 14, 10, and 6. Absolutely fantastic. Shout out to Kevin Durant with his 15 points. Shout out to these 3 guys that have done so much for basketball in this country and globally. And thank you, gentlemen, for getting the job done and bringing home the gold. And thank you to them, honestly, to me, I didn't see egos. There were guys that didn't play a ton. You have the Jason Tatum controversy. You have Joel Embiid not playing against South Sudan. You have Tyrese Halliburton, who had a great regular season. 12th guy. You had Derek White basically coming off the street when Kawhi went home. These guys showed togetherness. They showed USA over the name of the back of their jersey. And you have to be careful when you get a team of mercenaries. Will guys step up and do things that they're not accustomed to? Devin Booker was really great the last couple of games. Stayed in the starting lineup. Devin Booker became one of the better defenders. Anthony Davis came off the bench for most of the Olympics. He was their best rebounder. And when he had to play big minutes, AD, he was absolutely fantastic. Joel Embiid started out slow. He was great in that semifinal game. When they went against Serbia, he had to be ready. And he was ready. Drew Holiday did great things off as a defensive guard. Anthony Edwards had points where he was dominant. But what I liked about this team is, whether it was the 35-point performance by Anthony Edwards, or what I saw the last two games, or when LeBron had to take over games at certain points, egos were checked at the door. And as much as we got to knock Steve Kerr and people want to get after him about the playing time, those guys played for him. And when we had to turn it on, we turned it on. What a performance and what a game in that 98-87 win by the United States. Shout out to the men. Job well done bringing home the gold. Speaking of USA, France, speaking of the gold medal game, boy, the women were in a dogfight, weren't they? 67-66 final. Folks, they were down 10. They were through the third quarter. They had scored 25 points the entirety of the first half. France, led by Gabby Williams, the former UConn star, 19.7 rebounds. We'll get to her in a second. Maureen Johannes, who has spent time with the New York Liberty, only with 9 points, 2 rebounds. We had some big threes early on. USA, obviously Asia Wilson, 21-13-4. Struggled to make shots. Kelsey Plum hit some big free throws down the stretch. Hit 12 points, 4 assists. And then obviously, we don't win this without the play of Kalia Copper. Brianna Stewart struggled in this game, but arguably had one of the biggest plays in which she got caught on a shot fake with her right hand, landed, threw her left hand out. By the way, do y'all know Stewie has a 7-foot wingspan? And went the other way with the left hand and blocked a huge three-pointer down the stretch. The game will also be talked about Gabby Williams, who made an incredible shot at the buzzer, but as you can see, Miss Referee Brianna Stewart pointed to the line, in which the shot was a 2. And that gets me to a couple of things. Number one, Asia Wilson's the best player in the world. Not even close. She's the best player in the world. She's dominant. She was off. Second best player in the world, right behind Asia Wilson, is Stewie. We won that game with those two not finishing around the rim. But it also showed that we have a little bit of an Achilles heel. And that is the guard play. And that gets to me to what my issues were with Cheryl Reeve. Number one, the starting of Diana Taurasi, I did not like. But what I really didn't like is Diana Taurasi's behind glued to the bench for the gold medal game. I thought there was an opportunity for Diana Taurasi to make an impact on this game with her ability to stretch the floor and shoot the ball from three. Simply put, she is one of the best shooters in the history of this game, and she could have helped, especially in that first half where we could not buy a shot, particularly inside, because they were loading up the paint. Number two, she is the point guard, and I want to make sure I give my respect to Chelsea Gray. She should not have been starting, and I don't know if she should have been on this team. She's a phenomenal player, phenomenal talent. But they were better throughout the game against Japan. They were better when Chelsea Gray was off the floor. 3, what the hell happened with Sabrina Ionescu? Sabrina was someone who was one of the first people off the bench to someone that barely played. And everybody wants to talk about the run they made. Folks, you know when that game started to turn? Where it turned? 40-35. Go watch the tape. See who checks in the game for the first time. Sabrina Ionescu. Did Sabrina score? No. But she had 3 assists, 2 rebounds, and led to another basket or 2 with her smart-headed play. We couldn't get into offense because France was very physical with us. I don't know what happened with Cheryl Reeve. I don't know what. And then I would say this. If I were the coach, if I was Cheryl Reeve, about 3 minutes into the fourth quarter, my lineup would have been Ionescu, Kalia Copper, Diana Taurasi, Breanna Stewart, Asia Wilson. Even though DT didn't play. Why? 1, DT's an absolute gamer. She's the GOAT. 2, she would have been able to stretch the floor from 3. 3, you have a scoring point guard, and Ionescu, who's a very good passer, basically underrated passer. People don't talk about Sabrina Ionescu's passing because they forgot that she plays with Vandersloot in New York. Sapp was Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark. Go look at the tape. Look at the number of triple-doubles she had at Oregon. And I would have played Kalia Copper at the 2. Why? I've been saying this for 3 years on this network. Kalia Copper, 2 words. Walking bucket. If you need someone to go get a bucket, it's Kalia Copper. And Kalia saved our ass in the gold medal game because, folks, they could not check her. So while Jackie Young did some things during the Olympics, kind of don't understand sometimes how much playing time she got. While Kelsey Plum did some things, I would have played others. While Nafisha Collier plays the 3, when she doesn't play the 3 with the Minnesota Lynx, she's a 5, basically a 4 sometimes, but you play her as a 3. Why? Well, maybe because the USA coach is the Minnesota Lynx coach. And don't get me wrong, I love Nafisha Collier. I told people Nafisha Collier should have been in an MVP conversation before the season started. Go check that tape. I just didn't like how Cheryl Reeve coached his team. For the whole Olympics, for playing time and rotations. But let's get to the last 40 seconds. Gabby Williams they get a ball screen. We don't switch. We're up 4. You know France has got to go for a 3. Why? Because if they go for a 2 and we get the ball in bounds, they foul us, it's back to a 2-possession game. Once we were down 4, They had to shoot a 3 to get it to 1 so that when we made 2 free throws, they had a chance to tie. That was poor defensive performance by us. We're not switching and getting out higher and funneling Gabby Williams to the basket. Number 2, we go to the foul line up 1. We make 2 free throws. Every coach in the world knows this. When a team can't advance the ball, you put someone at the scorer's table. So when the second shot is made, the horn goes off, you sub, you match up. Folks, go watch the videotape. We weren't matched up. We didn't know who we were guarding. And Gabby Williams hits that incredible shot. And the only reason why we won that gold medal, folks, because our foot was on the line. The only reason. How can a coach of that stature, and I don't mean to knock Cheryl because I think she's a fantastic coach, a better coach than me. But those are critical errors that we can't have in a spot like that. You know why we had those errors, folks? Because we've never been in that spot. We blow everybody out. We looked borderline unprepared the end of the game. We didn't know how to match up. We didn't know how to switch that at half court. And when Gabby Williams got the ball, hit that long 3 to funnel her to the basket to keep that is on the staff, but it's also in the fact that we did not think we were in that or going to be in that situation. Shout out to France, who played a fantastic game, particularly Gabby Williams. It'll be interesting to see. Next podcast, we'll be sure that we will reset the WNBA board as the WNBA games will tip off on Thursday. Let's move on to what I think is my way too early 2028 Olympic roster. This is what I would pick as of right now. There could be changes. It could be fluid. It could be age. It could be guys getting hurt. It could be guys stepping up. But here are my 12 players that I would take to LA. Because of size, I know he's old. I got to take Anthony Davis. I think he's going to be about 33, 34 years old. Anthony Edwards, Paolo Banchero, Jaylen Brown. Well, let's see if there's still a Nike controversy about that. Jason Tatum, who will be a bigger part of that team for sure. Jalen Brunson, someone argue that should have been on the team this past Olympics. I think he'll get the nod provided that he continues to play at a high level. Devin Booker, Bam Adebayo, Spider Mitchell, Tyrese Maxey, and we need another big. I'm going with Chet Holmgren. And lastly, Cooper Flagg. Folks, he did some things with the select team. And I'm telling you right now, this kid, just wait till you see Duke. Folks, I hate Duke. And I'm going to watch every Duke game this year because I want to see this kid play. And I'm telling you this right now. This kid is the goods. Now, when you think about this team that I just pulled up, and Matt can pull up the roster again for those that are watching. A couple of names to keep in mind. Cade Cunningham, someone that's played well on the select team. Zion Williamson, can he stay healthy? There may not be as polarizing a figure by that point. If he can keep himself out of trouble, then John Morant. If you're talking about bigs, it could be Jared Allen, it could be Evan Mobley, it could be Jaren Jackson Jr. But those 12, AD, Ant, Banchero, Jaylen Brown, Tatum, Brunson, Cooper Flagg, Booker, Adebayo, Spider, Maxey, Holmgren. Those would be my 12. Head coach, I don't think it's Steve Kerr because I don't think Steve Kerr is going to be coaching the Warriors within the next 4 years. I think he's going to be gone and be back in the broadcasting booth. I think it's very simple. If he's still coaching Miami, which he should be, and I think he's the best coach in the NBA, I think Spoelstra gets elevated, becomes the head coach. And if you want a dark horse, you want to go to the college game, there's no more polarizing figure than Dan Hurley. If Dan Hurley can find a way to win another national championship at UConn, and let's say he has 3 national championships in 5 years, or 3 and 6, you could see, because of the respect, remember he went to the Lakers, and that's partially because of LeBron, he's got respect to the NBA guys. That is the wild card. Dan Hurley could be the next USA coach if we decide to go to the college ranks. Remember, we did do that with Mike Krzyzewski for a long, long time. For the women's side, okay, it's going to be a mix of the old and the new. Let's start with Paige Beckers, who I think out of UConn is going to be absolutely dynamite when she gets to the WNBA. Paige's thing has been her injuries. Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark should have been on this team this year. She's the best shooter in the world. And with it being in America, if Caitlin Clark is big now, imagine how big she's going to be in 3 years. And we host the Olympics. Sabrina Ionescu. Why Sab? Still going to be one of the best guards in the country, in the world. And Sabrina is from California. Speaking of California, if you're in LA, got to have the pride of LA, and that's Juju Watkins, who will be coming out, and that she should be in her second year in the WNBA. And Juju Watkins, at the end of the day, whether it's Paige, Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, folks, she may be the best out of all of them when it's all said and done. Asia Wilson, why? Because she's still going to be probably the best player in the world. Breanna Stewart, she still may be second. Now let's get to the young forwards. Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, Aaliyah Boston of the Indiana Fever, Jackie Young, Walking Bucket Kalia Copper, Ryan Howard. There could be other people you could talk about. You could talk about Nafisa Collier. You could talk about, Kelsey Plum. You could talk about maybe, an Alyssa Thomas. You could talk about other players here. But to me, that is going to be our roster. And I can't wait to see Paige, Caitlin Clark, Juju Watkins, Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, Aaliyah Boston, all playing their first Olympics in 2028 in this country after the new WNBA deal. I think it would be sky high for us with the women, and they may get as much attention or more attention than the men. Head coach for that team, my prediction is that Cheryl Reeve will be done. I think natural progression may go to Carol Lawson. Carol Lawson, the head coach of Duke, very well respected at USA Basketball, been an assistant on this team. Carol Lawson also has won a gold medal representing this country. So I would say Carol Lawson. You want a little bit of a wild card if she's not coaching in the NBA. Don't sleep on someone like Becky Hammon, especially the way how great the Vegas Aces are going to be. And they're going to be well represented, obviously, unless something happens with trades, with having Asia Wilson and Jackie Young on the team, maybe even Kelsey Plum. Let's end today's podcast by talking about opening night. It's amazing, folks. Like, we end the Olympics games on Saturday with the men, Sunday with the women, and all of a sudden, Shams drops a tweet. Opening night schedule. Did we get it right? Knicks, Celtics, Timberwolves, Lakers. Did we get it right? Folks, absolutely. Number one, you're going to look at the fact that the Celtics are going to be the defending champions and will be the odds-on favorite to win the NBA title. The New York Knicks have had a great offseason, getting Jalen Brunson to get a discount, retaining and keeping OG Anunoby, trading for Mikal Bridges, bringing in Cam Payne, drafting Tyler Kolek. They have had a great offseason, and they did it partially with getting back OG and trading for Bridges. They lined themselves up looking at Boston. And can they stop Brown, and Tatum. Let's be honest. I'm a Knicks fan. I hate the Celtics. You look at Dave Portnoy. By the way, shout out to Dave Portnoy. Nice job saying that you want to root for France in the Olympics because of Tatum. Way to do it, guy. I mean, that's very impressive. Bill Simmons, Celtics fan, hate the Knicks. Knicks fans hate the Celtics. Celtics fans hate the Knicks. So what better way for the NBA to start this season than Knicks Celtics opening night ring ceremony? Head out west. Timberwolves at the Lakers. Why is this the best matchup? Because the Timberwolves could be the best team in the Western Conference, and a loaded Western Conference next year. And you need to still have, regardless if you think he's top 5, top 10 or not, there is still no bigger name in the NBA than LeBron James. So you get the best team in the league versus a team that thinks they're on the come up, that thinks their title window's opening in a big rival in the Knicks. Then you have arguably the best team in the West versus a player that could be the greatest of all time on opening night. Adam Silver, one word, cinema. And you just gave it to us opening night. This has been your Betting Above the Rim podcast, episode 77 for August 12th. For all things sports gambling, download that Sports Grid app. Pre-game, in-game, post-game, props, predictions, and more from the very best in the sports gambling industry. Next podcast, we will tape on Wednesday to release on Thursday. Why? WNBA kicks back off their second half of the season. We'll reset the board. We'll look at the championship odds. We'll look at player movement, win totals, everything you need for the W to get you set. For my producer, Matty George, and Vinny, who does a great job with the graphics, thank you for listening, folks. And remember, it's smarter to be on Sports Grid. Good night.